Did you start your cleaning company with loads of hope, visions of time and money freedom, but nowadays often you feel like you'd sell the whole goddamn thing for a shiny nickel and maybe a hug? Well, I've been exactly where you are. Overwhelmed, exhausted, wondering if it's even worth it. I have great news. After running several multi-million-dollar businesses for nearly 30 years and having coached owners of cleaning companies exclusively for a decade, I can tell you with 100% certainty that the cleaning business does not have to feel that way. In this video, you're going to discover the 3 things that you and your cleaning company need so you can love your business again. The first thing you need is plenty of the right employees, at the right pay, acting the right way. Next, you need to learn the fine art of not taking money from just anyone who waves it at you. And finally, you've got to know what to track and how to make decisions based on that data, not drama. All right, real quick, I'm testing doing fewer videos, going like kind of longer and deeper, and I would love your feedback on anything you want to give, like the format, if I missed anything, if you've got questions, if you're doing some of this or doing it different that you found works, share in the comments for the benefit of the community, and I will personally respond to them as well. All right, let's get back to work. So let's start with number 1, plenty of the right employees, acting the right way, at the right pay. So cleaning company owner, if you've been around for more than 2 seconds, you know that employee drama is the biggest things that makes owners not love their cleaning companies. Doing things like trying to dictate their schedule, who they'll work with, when they'll work, maybe doing average or, if we're honest, crap work, but you feel like you can't fire them because you need them, or just flat out calling out or not showing up last minute. The root cause of this is from having not enough employees. We feel like we have enough, but in reality, it's only if everybody shows up all the time and you never grow, and that's not what we want. You know, or you probably should know, that it takes 5 or 10 days to hire and train and onboard a good cleaner, but they can quit in nanoseconds. And if you've been around long enough, you'll know they quit in bunches, 0 to 3 times a year. A bunch quit all at once. So here's the math. When you don't have enough cleaners, it often kind of gives the vibe and the feel of you begging cleaners to work. Now, when you reverse that and you have more than enough cleaners, it reverses into them kind of, we don't want them begging for hours, but they're coming to you wanting more hours, and you're able to give it to them as a gift as opposed to you begging them to show up. And the best part is you never have to be, when you've got enough cleaners, you never have to be afraid to fire either the marginal or the bad cleaners. So the solution, as you may have guessed, is always have a hiring funnel that's bringing in more qualified employees than you need to hit your goal. The problem is a lot of owners of cleaning companies kind of get I know I need a hiring funnel that brings in more employees, but they don't do it. So let's talk about the 2 reasons that owners don't hire enough people or don't have enough people. 1, they get into this nasty little loop of I can't hire more employees until I get more work, but I can't get more work until I have more employees. 2, if we're being honest, either you don't have a hiring funnel, or you feel like it's more painful to run your hiring funnel than you feel it is to be short-staffed, so you don't run it. So the way to fix this is with a system that's always up, works like a charm, and that you absolutely love. So let's talk about how to do that. Step 1, start with your core values. Now keep in mind, this is your actual core values, not the way that you want cleaners to act like, or not the way that you wish you were, right? People are gonna know if you're full of it really quick. So we wanna make sure that your core values are who you really are right now. We call them actual, not aspirational. That's gonna do 2 things. 1, you can do it all the time with no work. It actually feels good. 2, you're gonna attract the right people naturally with how you act and how you talk and your marketing and everything, and you're gonna repel the wrong ones, right? So this is a really big topic I'd like to spend a lot more time on, but I don't wanna make this just a monster video. So if you want more on culture and core values and how to run your company with that, let me know in the comments and I'll do a whole video on it. All right, step 2, once you've got your core values, you wanna use those core values and infuse your hiring ad with it. So most people have a very boring, very typical fast-growing cleaning company seeks hardworking cleaner, paid vacation, flexible hours, blah, blah, blah. It's just so boring, right? And then what happens is you just get a bunch of people clicking every gosh darn ad and they never really are interested, right? The way we do it for our clients is we've got our hiring ad template, which is wildly powerful. And once they've got their core values, we show them how to overlay their core values onto our proven hiring ad. So that's best case scenario. Since we can't do that kind of one-to-many here on YouTube, if you want a copy of the hiring ad I'm talking about, I want to send out to everybody, but if you shoot me an email, mike@growmycleaningcompany.com, I'll send it to you and you can kind of use that to modify your core values or modify it with your core values. All right, so once you've got a core values-based hiring ad, the next step is to put that hiring ad somewhere people are going to see it. At the recording of this video, July 2025, and for the last couple years, Indeed has been a really good source of applicants, but they kind of stink to work with. So don't love their customer service. It's actually quite poor, but they're really good at their job and they're fairly cheap. So we use a lot of Indeed, kind of frenemies with them, but that's where we're at now. And if you're local, that's not in all things in all places, but in most of the markets, Indeed does a pretty good job. If you don't mind not great customer service, they'll get you some good applicants at a reasonable price. All right, let's move on to step 3, an automated 3-step hiring funnel. We'll get into that, but basically you want to automate text and email invites to people to join a group interview that you're going to have at the same time twice a week. So it might be Mondays and Thursdays. Generally you want it when your shift starts. For commercial, it might be at like 5:30 at night. For residential, it might be like 8:30 in the morning, right? You want that to be at a lot of people want it like at their office or somewhere fancy. Believe it or not, we prefer a Starbucks or a coffee shop because you can have some caffeine, there's a little sugar, it feels really casual. It's a great way to introduce people to kind of the brand of your company and to get a better vibe, right? If I'm sitting across a fancy table with you in a conference room, I may or may not get to know who you really are, but if we're just having a cup of coffee together, certainly as a group, it's a super fun energy and you tend to get more out of your applicants. So start with a group interview. You run your core values based ad, you automate text and email invites to like be at this date in this place at this time, which is awesome because a lot of, as you know, what we need cleaning company cleaners to do is to show up when we tell them and where we tell them. So on the interview process, the first thing we do is say, show up at this place at this time. 90% won't. Right? We're really only looking for a 10% show rate, which is great because you don't have to even look at the applications, right? There might be the most perfect application in the world and the guy doesn't show up. And there might be a terrible application where the person is just not great with English or great with resumes or word processing, but they show up and they dress nice and they look you in the eye and they shake your hand and you're like, wow, this guy's great. So it saves you a bunch of time and focuses on what you need. So step 1 is automate invites to a group interview twice a week generally. Step 2 is you're going to have the best of the people from that interview go to a one-on-one interview, and then the best of that group go to a working interview. And the beautiful thing is when you have 3 different interviews in 3 different places with 3 different people, the likelihood of that system picking well is going to be far better than just a system of you and or a manager who's probably overpaid and hard to replace doing it by yourself. So expanding the time a little, 3 different places, 3 different people, and 3 different times makes it super easy. But you might be saying, well, who are these 3 different people? I don't have any, I don't have that many managing or hiring or, managers to do the job. That's where we get to step 4, and that's where the magic happens. We're going to turn the whole gosh darn thing over to your cleaners. And here's how we do that. Twofold. One, if you've got core values match cleaners and you tell them at the beginning of the process, we're not just going to have you clean, we're going to give you leadership skills, the opportunity to hire, the opportunity to train. We're going to pour into you. The wrong ones aren't going to want that. The right ones are going to love it. So that's how we do that. And if your team right now isn't into it, that's okay. The new people will be, right? So don't stress out too much. Now, the way that we turn this over to the cleaners is the same way we train them to clean. So the steps are, you're going to do the group interview, the one-on-one interview, the working interview. They're going to watch you. They're going to do it while you watch them. You're going to watch them teach someone else to do it. And then once that's happened, you can kind of just check in once a week, twice a week, however you want. So in addition to it being a system that can work all the time without a lot of headache, that just works like a charm, there's a ton of benefits. First, you get a steady stream of people coming in, whether you feel like you need them or not. The biggest mistake our clients make is they come in going, I could double my business if I just had enough cleaners to do the job at a high level. And literally within a month or two, they go to, I turned off my hiring funnel because I have too many people. They go from complaining about not enough to too many. Spoiler alert, there's no such thing as too many people wanting to work for you, right? Just because you're interviewing someone isn't guaranteeing them a job, right? It is okay to interview people when you don't have exactly what job they're going to go in right now. The second benefit is current employees tend to start valuing their job more, right? If every week or twice a week, you've got 1 or 2 employees showing up to a room full of people who want their job and are really excited, they lose that attitude of like, I'll show up when I want, or I kind of, half-ass it. And they start getting a little more committed. Or they realize, holy crap, there's a standard here and I might be held accountable to higher level of performance and I'm going to leave. Either way, it's a win for your company. So steady stream of employees coming in make your job so much, or your business so much better. Current employees valuing their job is phenomenal. Third is you can start adding floaters, right? You definitely want to have people, especially the bigger you get, where when, not if, someone calls calls out or quits or just, you know how it is, things happen. Right now, typically you as the owner are often the floater, right? Or hope and a prayer is your floater. You can tell people, it's a great positioning to go, hey, Bob, hey, Susie, we'd love to have you here, but I think you'd be a great fit. But the reality is we have more people that want this job than we have spots to put them. If you're willing for the next month to just show up every time, 100% of the time we call, and you do a great job every time, guarantee I'll get you on the staff in a month. And you go, well, hold on, what if I still don't have a thing in a month? Well, one of two things is gonna happen, and this is the last benefit of having this hiring, well, not the last, but the last one we're gonna cover in this video. The last benefit of having this funnel going all the time is the ability to top grade. And what that means is, anytime you've got a team of more than 2 or 3, sometimes even if the team's only 2 or 3, you've got some A players, some B and C players, and sometimes some D and Fs, right? And we tolerate the Bs, Cs, Ds, and Fs because we can't get any better, right? But if you've got a constant stream of people coming in all the time, that gives you the ability to top grade, right? There's nothing wrong with, if I've got a C player who's got 20 hours a week and an A applicant, giving 10 of those hours on a working interview of the C player to the A applicant. One of two things is gonna happen with each of these people. The C player is either gonna go, holy heck, this job's for real, other people want it, and they're gonna get better, right? I don't think any of you guys out there have ever dated a gal and maybe you didn't treat her as well as you should have, and then some other guys came sniffing around, you're like, holy heck, maybe if I want this relationship, I should pay a little more attention, be a little better boyfriend. Not a bad idea, right? So either, or maybe you go, oh, this is too much, I can't handle the competition, I'm out. Either way, it's good for the girl, right? So same thing, either the C player is going to go to an A player realizing other people want this job, I better really take it seriously, or they're going to get frustrated and leave. Again, it's a win for you either way. On the applicant side, if they're an A applicant who turns into an A player, great job, you just moved the C player to an A player. If you keep doing that consistently, your expectations and standard for an A player just goes up and up and up, and the bottom, right, what a C or B or something you don't tolerate goes up and up as well. That's best case. Worst case, say the A player comes in, or the A applicant comes in, he's an F player, he's no good. That's fine because the C player might have kicked his or her game up. Cool, we just give him the hours back. If not, there'll be another A applicant behind him and another one behind her, and again, forever. All right, once we've got more than enough people, let's talk about the right pay, which is really two things, how often you pay and how much. Let's start with how often. So first and foremost, it should go without saying, but I'm gonna say it, use a payroll company. Very few, five, maybe 10% of our people are like, I do my payroll in-house. Not great, or sometimes even they have their accountant do it. There's a lot of risk with payroll because there's 941, 945, some of it's quarterly, and I just really, for me personally, I'd want a big payroll company like ADP or someone that I trust is not gonna fiddle with it, or if they mess up and there's a bunch of fees, they'll just pay for it. So spend a couple $100 a month, use a payroll company, best money you're ever gonna spend. All right, once we've got that down, there is the right amount, in my humble opinion, from my experience in lots of businesses, not just a cleaning company, of the right number to pay. What we coach vociferously, I know, big word, is twice a month. Not every, so the worst is daily. Some of you guys pay daily, which is nutballs, and God forbid you get to $1 million company paying daily. It's gonna be 3 full-time jobs just fiddling with pay. Second worst would be weekly, and the third worst would be every other week, and there's a reason for that. So let's get into the benefits, and there's quite a few, believe it or not. You wouldn't think this is a big deal. This is one of those things where you get lots of little switches and they kind of make a big impact when you put them together. So twice a month has lots of benefits. First, there's only 24 payrolls per year. If you do it every other week, that's 26, 2 whole payrolls you got to process. You know, obviously if you do it weekly, that's 52, and God forbid, I don't want to do the math on 5, whatever. So payroll is 2 things. It costs the only 2 things that we have in business, payroll costs time and money, right? So if you have a payroll company, that's going to save a lot of the time, but somebody, ideally your accountant, not you, is going to have to translate all the data, the raw data from your scheduling or clock in, clock out, job or whatever you're using, to your payroll company, QuickBooks or ADP or whatever the case may be. And then ADP, your payroll company, is going to yank some money out of your accounting software, and you've got to translate that back into breaking, this is workers' comp and this is that, right? So there's some time involved for either you, or shouldn't be you, your accountant ideally. We can save that, and then every time you run a payroll, your payroll company charges you. So the least payrolls you can have, the best. I know in the United States, there's like 2 states that require you to pay weekly. Obviously, sorry if you're in one of those states, so always follow the law. But if you're free legally to do what you want, you're going to want to pay twice a month, not every other week, certainly not weekly. It saves time and money, all that good stuff. The bigger and badder reason is bad employees typically want cash and they want it frequently, right? Good employees don't really give a care. They just want it to be easy, direct deposit, whenever. It's just not a big deal. And the reason is bad employees have made some mistakes in their life where they've invited a lot of drama in, and they blame you, right? Like they've been late on their rent that they can't pay 6 out of the 9 last months, and they're waiting on your $241 to pay this. And if they don't, it's a bunch of drama. And they get pissed at you if something goes wrong. And then they go, and I'd like you to give me keys to your client's multi-million-dollar buildings, which is insane. So don't mold your payroll process to what your worst employees, the people that want to be paid weekly, want. Mold it to what's best for the company. And the good employees are going to they're going to be fine with that. Again, they're not really interested in that. The last reason that's such a big deal when it comes to the frequency of pay, when you pay every other week or weekly, as you guys probably know, there's not 4 weeks in a month. There's 4.3 weeks, right? There's an extra Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or however the case at the beginning of the month. It's weird, right? So when you just pay twice a month, the 1st through the 15th, and then the 16th through the end of the month, you always have a nice, clean, exactly 2 payrolls in a month. If you pay weekly, there's not 4 weeks in a month, there's 4.33. So you obviously can't do 4 1/3 payrolls. You end up doing 4 payrolls twice, 2 months, and then a 5th payroll every 3 months. And then if you pay every other week, that every other week would actually be 2.16 times per week, but you can't run a 0.16 of a payroll. So every now and again you get an extra payroll, and that whole month just goes to crap on the profit, right? So when you just do exactly 2 payrolls a month, all the days, everything's clean. You get a clean month with a clean cost of goods sold, everything's perfect. So if that all was kind of confusing, you don't need it, you'll still get the benefit if you just run 2 payrolls a month, 1st through the 15th, and you wouldn't pay on the 15th, you might pay on the 20th or something like that, and then the 16th through the end of the month, paid like the 5th of the next month. All right, now that we've covered when to pay and why that's important, let's talk about how much to pay. And this is a really exciting kind of calculus because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how much to pay. Obviously people in Tampa make a little different wage than people in San Francisco or Chicago or something like that. The way that we're going to coach you to do is find out the average. Just Google it or check Indeed. We'll kind of tell you what average wages are in your area. And you're going to want to pay 10% above the average. There's a couple benefits to that. One, it's not that much. So say if the average is $15 an hour, you might start at $16.50. No big deal. The second is once you start getting good at this, a lot of your hires, your best hires, are going to come from referrals by your employees. And if an employee says, oh, we get paid $17 an hour, maybe someone thinks that's a lot or thinks there's really nothing to compare it to. But if they go, we get paid 10% above average, that's a nice thing. Like, hey, and then you can tell people, we only take better than average people, so we pay better than average. On top of that, we're going to offer a quarterly bonus up to 15% based on their performance. The 4 keys that we encourage you to use determine if they get the bonus, if they show up, if they act right, if they do a good job, and they do it in the right time. We'll talk about each of those. So showing up is time and attendance, right? If they're constantly, we won't get into it here, but we'd coach you to have excused and unexcused absences. Unexcused would be anything within like 48 hours of their shift. Like if they call in 5 hours early, doesn't matter what the reason or excuse is, it's just too close to their shift, that would be unexcused. And then excused would be, hey, I've got a wedding in 3 weeks, can I take off this week? And you say, yes, you can, that would be excused. So you give them a certain amount of excused and unexcused. And if they're taking any excused absences, I wouldn't give them any of their show up bonus, right? And if they're 100% on time and show up every time they're supposed to in that quarter, they get all that bonus. Acting right would just be core values, right? If they're a good core values match, and this is the only one that's not something you could count, right? It's kind of an opinion of that. But most of the time, if you ask them, hey, our core values are have fun, make money, be real, and help out, how well do you think you've been living those core values? They'll actually, more times than not, be a little more harsh on themselves than you might be. And if they're they think they're doing a better job, then you can just ask them questions. Tell me about that. Can you tell me a time when you were that? What makes you say that? When you start asking questions, usually they go, all right, maybe I'm not so much. So showing up on time every time, attendance, right? Acting right, core values match. Doing a good job just means more positive reviews and ideally no negative reviews, right? I don't think I'd give them any bonus for doing a good job if they had any negative reviews. And I certainly wouldn't if they had no negative reviews, but no positive, right? So we actually need proactive, good, positive feedback. And then in the right time just means if you're giving them 2 hours for this job, they're consistently taking that much or less, right? And I know it can be scary. You're like, oh my goodness, that means I'm paying 25%, the 10% I pay everybody, and up to 15% for the bonus. I promise you, you will make more money on the guy or gal you're paying 25% above market value, if they're a perfect core values match, they show up 100% of the time, they get nothing but positive reviews, they're always doing it on time or quicker, promise you'll make more money than you would if you didn't have the bonus. Now, here's the trick with this. It resets quarterly. A big thing that people get into is because they don't have a good hiring funnel, like we talked about earlier, when they do find someone that's good, they hold on to them like, please, please don't leave. And they just tend to throw money at them more often. Like, it's been a month and we haven't given you a raise and I want you some more money, more money. But the problem is, say that the average wage in your area is $15 and you just keep giving them a raise, a buck here, 50 cents here. A year in, they might be at 20 bucks and it's just too much, right? And a month or two passes, they're like, where's my raise? And you're kind of in this stuck spot. So the cool thing with what we talk about, every quarter at the quarterly reviews, we recommend you do weekly meetings, monthly parties, quarterly reviews. Probably cover that a little more in a minute. At the quarterly reviews, you're gonna recheck what average pay is. And if it's gone up, say it was $15 and now it's $16, everybody's gonna go to 10% above that 16 bucks. If it stayed the same, or God forbid going down, everyone just the base pay stays the same. Now that quarterly 15% bonus, they only get that for last quarter. So they have to re-earn it every quarter, it doesn't stack. So it's not 15% and then another, because people get too much, right? That 15% is just for the, so again, if it's $10 an hour and they get the full 15% bonus, it'd be $11.50 for the next quarter. In the next quarterly review, you'd see what the average is, start over, and then have to re-earn it. All right, so that hopefully gives you a good idea of how to do the pay. And again, if you're doing the quarterly reviews, A, they get feedback on their performance. B, they know when they're gonna have their pay reviewed. And again, C, it makes a great story for them to share with their friends on, we have weekly meetings and there's monthly parties and every quarter we get potential for a raise. It's the best. All right, last thing on pay, drive time and mileage. So there's a couple reasons that you're gonna wanna pay for drive time and mileage. A, it's the right thing to do. B, it might be the law in some areas. And C, it's gonna allow you to not own your own cars. So A, in the first hand, the customers are gonna pay for this. They expect that your cleaners don't live there and it costs money to get them there. That's fine. And B, you're not gonna have to have your own car. So I promise you, for the mileage piece, say it's 70 cents a mile or whatever the deduction is this year from your government, I promise you that 70 cents for mileage, which will cover gas and all that sort of stuff, is way cheaper than owning your own cars, giving them to the employees and having them beat the snot out of it. And the crazy thing is, if you own a company car, you gotta find it, you gotta buy it, you gotta store it, you gotta maintain it, you got insurance. God forbid somebody gets in an accident, the employees beat the snot out of it. It's just so much work. The cool thing is your employees are already buying and negotiating and taking good care of and maintaining their own cars, right? So, and most of them aren't gonna be like super fancy cars, so you pay them 70 cents a mile or whatever the deduction is, they're gonna be so happy. So your employees will love it, your customers are gonna pay for it, and it allows you not to have to buy, maintain, and store cars. It's a win-win-win. I know a lot of you guys see Molly Maids and stuff like that, cars out there, and you're like, I want a fleet of cars. Totally fine. Just know that's an ego thing, not a business decision thing. That is always going to cost you a terrible business decision. Might be good for the ego, but boy, oh boy, it will wear you out. And for those of you that are like, well, yeah, but Molly Maids has it. It's because the franchisor requires them. It's very good for the franchisor. It's not great for the owner, for the franchisee. And you're in the position of the franchisee. So we don't want to see franchisees being forced to do certain things by their franchisor, and we do that. All right, now that we've covered when and how much to pay, let's talk about acting the right way, which is a really big deal. Like we mentioned before, we're gonna maintain the culture with weekly meetings, monthly parties, quarterly reviews. Let's dive into that. So weekly meetings, and we're gonna kind of do the old newspaper thing of what, where, why, who, what, all of it. I won't forget any. So the weekly meetings, let's start with the why. First of all, this is the most leveraged time that you can invest in your company. At the end of the day, as an owner, your job is really to set the vision, check the financials, and maintain the culture in the company. And these weekly meetings take anywhere from 20 to like 30 minutes. You don't want it longer than that. And it's just a massive opportunity in just less than an hour to keep a pulse on how the team is doing. Let them feel that you're there and you give a crap about them. So why is it just the most leveraged thing you can do with your time as an owner? Where can be at your office. If you don't have one, you can get a shared, like share, usually $200-300, you can get a shared workspace space. You can do it in a storage shed, anywhere you like. The where isn't as important. It's just somewhere that kind of matches your values and the vibe. Now let's talk about who. Everybody on the team should be there. You, when you're in town, should be there 100% of the time. We talk a lot about loving your business, and that's what this whole video is about. So if you're traveling or it's going to make you miserable. You don't have to be there every time, right? You can have it just like we train the employees to run the hiring process. That's how we train them to run the weekly meetings, right? If you know you're going to be gone, you might have someone that you like run the meeting while you are there, and you can watch them. And obviously they'll have watched you every week. And again, this shouldn't be something that they feel like they're begrudging. This should be an exciting, like, I get to run the meeting. Like, this is you pouring into them, not, they're not doing you a favor. You're really doing them a favor. So everyone on the team should be there. As long as you're in town, you should absolutely be there, and you don't have to run it. It's totally a great idea if you never run it. We just want you there. And it's okay if the employees miss some, but it's a real big red flag if they miss all of them, right? And again, if you're just installing this practice into your company and the team you have now isn't into it, that's okay. As you start doing the hiring process, you tell everyone this is part of it. And if they're not super excited about that, probably a wrong fit. And if they are super excited, they're going to come. And keep in mind, if a lot of people aren't coming, don't blame them. It's typically on you, and the meeting's not very fun, right? So you want to make sure that the meeting's a good time. And keep in mind, at the beginning, a lot of people aren't going to want to come, but if you're consistent as time goes on and you're making them fun, either they're going to want to come or they're not the right fit long term. Okay, so that's that. Now we talk about how long. Just 10 or 20 minutes, and the way that we're going to do it is the first couple is going to be tempting for you to go long, right? Because you haven't had a meeting, you didn't know it, but you've been built up with all this admin crap that you feel like you've got to share in one meeting. The cool thing is weekly, because you're going to do it weekly, literally it should just be 10, 20 minutes. And if you're like, I have so much more to go, just put it on hold, right? We're going to do it next week and the week after and the week after. So let's talk about how they're actually, how you run them, what you do. First of all, they should be paid. Again, it's not going to be a long thing, 20 or 30 minutes. And again, if you're like, oh my gosh, 20 or 30 minutes times 10 employees, that's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, I get it. But again, your customers are paying you to have the right people and a culture, and all the stuff that you're doing at the weekly meetings benefits your customer. So they're going to pay for that. So it's paid. This is where they pick up their supplies, right? So that's another reason when a lot of times people have them come every day. That's too much, or they never have them come in. That's not enough. Weekly is a great cadence, and you want to have your supplies there. So when I talked about where it's at, the supplies that they need to refill should be there at the meeting. And the way we're going to run it is wins and celebrations, examples of core values. So like maybe this employee shares, oh, I was on a partner with James yesterday, and one of our core values to help out, and it was an older lady, and she didn't even ask, and he just saw some stuff and did it. That'd be a great core value share. So we start with that, and that can go 5-10 minutes. We're just wins and celebrations, or oh my gosh, we helped this lady and she was so exhausted and she came home and she just broke down in tears and was so happy that we were there. Wins and celebrations and core values to start, and then like 5 minutes, 10 at the most, on 1, maybe 2 administrative pieces. Or any sort of feedback for the cleaners, right? And you want this to be general. You guys probably know this as leaders, but we always say positive things in public and any sort of correction in private, right? So if maybe I got a negative piece of feedback on one team from yesterday, I might bring up that to the team. I'm not gonna say this team did a bad job. I'm just gonna say we got some feedback on X, Y, and Z. I'm just not gonna call it the team, but everyone can kind of benefit from the feedback. And then any administrative changes like, hey, here's how we're clocking out, or the monthly party is gonna be here, just any of the admin stuff, but literally 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're gonna end with celebrations again. This should really be a fun, very low key, you can stand up, lots of hugs, lots of fun. If the people are wanting to come, that's a really good sign that your culture is going well and they're having fun at the meetings and no one wants to leave. If not, that's something we want to work at. You personally can hang around, or probably should hang around, before and after. So show up 5-10 minutes early. It's a great opportunity to find people who've had something on their shoulder, they want to talk about something. And if you're just there 10-15 minutes early and they show up, you can kind of have like a semi-private conversation. And then afterwards, hang out a little bit, and people start, I don't want to say get trained, but they'll know if I need to talk to the owner, I can just hang out. One little note on that. Really important for any culture, we don't accept any gossip, right? So if an employee has a negative thing to say about another employee, that's totally fine. We need to hear, if there's a problem in your company, you need to hear it. The only thing is the other person needs to be there, right? So if Susie comes and like, I worked with Becky and she's a pain in the neck and blah, blah, and she wants to settle Becky's hash in front of me. Maybe Becky's a problem and I need to know. So I'm gonna tell Susie, hey, I really wanna have this conversation. Let's just grab Becky, right? Because I can't change anything about Becky. Only Becky can change Becky. Let's grab her. Oftentimes Susie's gonna, I don't wanna do that, which almost every time means Susie's the problem, not Becky. And when Susie goes, yeah, we probably should. Now I know it's probably a problem with Becky, but at least Becky gets to speak for herself. So really important, we have no gossip, because if you gossip to me about another employee and I listen, now you know that other people are probably talking to me behind your back, and it's just a really gross thing. So really important, anytime in a culture, one of the quickest things to kill it is gossip. And if you don't tolerate it, it works its way down. Not perfectly, but in a really good way. And if you do tolerate it, it works its way down perfectly. Everybody gossips, it's really tough. All right, that's the weekly meeting. Let's talk a little bit about the monthly parties. Now, this is definitely going to be you. These are important enough. I would do my best to be in town for these, right? If it's a huge deal and you miss 1 or 2 a year, not the end of the world, but you're really telling the people this isn't important. So the weekly meetings, I'm not going to change my calendar around it. If I'm in town, I'm going to be there, but I'm not going to change my life. The monthly parties, I'm going to work really hard to be at 10 to 12 per year. This is one where not only is it the employees, but also their family. It makes a huge difference. We do some live events for some of our clients, and my wife and my son come, and it's my favorite because, I don't know about you guys, but my wife kind of sees what we do, and it's just a bunch of work and money comes in, but it's hard for her to be connected. When she gets to see the humans' lives that we're changing, it makes a big deal. And when our clients get to know my wife, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's just a different thing, right? So when family come, kids, spouses, it really helps build a culture. So always invite. I know it's going to be a little more expensive. You have to whatever, fine. Another way, and you don't have to do this every month, but 5, 6 months, 3 to 6 months a year, I would invite customers and prospects. Really hard for a customer to fire you after they come to one of your company parties. And when you've got your team, your customers that love you, and prospects, perfect prospects at a company party, the likelihood they become clients is pretty gosh darn high. You can even invite vendors, right? Same thing, right? The more the vendors feel like they're part of your community, the more they want to call you or help you or do things with you. Again, just like the weekly meetings, it's actually harder because there's less of them. People won't want to come at the beginning. That's fine. Your job is to make it amazing, whoever shows up, and get FOMO to start working for you. So say you have 10 employees and the first time only 2 show up and 1 brings their spouse, so it's just you and 3 people, or you and your wife, or whoever's on your side. It can be really easy to get disheartened and kind of half-ass it, right? Or let them feel your disappointment, which is the opposite of what you need to do. Go the other way and go, oh my gosh, I'm so excited it's just you or just the 2 of you. I feel like we haven't got to spend very much time together, and now we have all of dinner or all of whatever it needs to be. I'm so excited. The cool thing is word will get out. People will start getting FOMO, and they'll start coming. So here's the rules. You got to do it monthly. If you just do it every now and again, you're you're very much communicating to your community. They're not important, and they never know when they're going to be, right? So if you're consistent, ideally the same time, like every Friday night, 3rd Friday, or the 1st Friday of every month, or whatever you want, it's always the same time. That way people can have it on their schedule. They can tell their spouses, they're more likely. So 1 is consistent, and 2, just make it amazing. And amazing doesn't mean expensive, right? We've had them at parks. We've had them at our office, just where people would bring in food from home. So maybe 2 or 3 times a year, like Christmas party or something, you might go a little, have a little budget behind it, but it's never the budget. It's the time. You can even have it at your house, depending on how big your company is and what you feel comfortable with, but don't feel like it's the budget you spend. The example I get, I think it was from the 1 Minute Manager. He talks about if he brought some cookies from Costco on the way to work and opened them up, people would be like, that's nice, I suppose. Or I guess if he gave a gift certificate for everyone to have cookies, it'd be like, thank you. But if you brought cookies from Costco, that'd be a little nicer. And if you bake cookies from home and brought them in and said, my family and I baked this for you, they're going to feel really loved. All right, let's talk about the why. Employee turnover this is a big lever for employee turnover because they've either just come off a monthly party, they're looking forward to a monthly party. And when you get family coming in, and I want to quit this job, but my wife is friends with 2 or 3 of the other wives, or my kids play together, any of that, it is going to be a lot longer conversation before I quit. If you have clients come, it's phenomenal for client retention. If you bring prospects, it's very few things that you can do better than to get new clients and to hang out with them for an hour or 2. And it's also great for creating content, right? For social media, great to take pictures and share. And at the most important probably, it's fun. So this whole video is about creating a business that you love. When you've got the hiring funnel, you hire core values people, you're doing weekly meetings, monthly parties, you're gonna have a ton of fun. Now on the where, like I said, don't go crazy with the money. You can do it at a restaurant and buy everyone dinner, maybe a couple $100. You can reserve a park if you want to spend a little money. You can do go-karts, paintball, pool halls, bowling. Charity is a great thing, right? You can find a charity that you're going to be like, hey, every quarter we're going to bring our whole team and do charity. It's free and you can do great stuff. How long? Depends on what you're doing. 2 to 4 hours, like doesn't have to be a huge thing, just as long as it's fun, right? And if it's only fun for 20 minutes, you're doing it wrong. So it should be fun enough that people want to hang out for a couple hours. And what is going to happen during these? This is one of the few things where this wouldn't be paid, right? Because it is optional, but you want them to come. But what you're going to do is no work, right? The only work that's allowed is awards, right? You can give, the way we do this is a mix between fun and kind of serious. So serious would be best attendance, most positive reviews, best teammate, all sorts of stuff. And then silly stuff we would do like best looking wife, most likely to stink up the bathroom, crappiest car. You can do whatever you want. But even most pain in the butt customer, which is super fun if that customer comes. And I'll give you a quick story about this. One of our live events that we did, we give awards to our clients at the end. It's one of the most fun things that we do. And my 9-year-old son was there, Christian, and we told him he got to give the Christian award. And he was so excited about it. He probably mentioned it to every person in that room. It was a big mansion we'd rented 20 times. Like he was so into it. And he picked Claire Montgomery, one of my favorite clients, and just a sweet, sweet lady. And now he and Claire are like BFFs. Every time there's an event, she looks for him, he looks for her. Last event, my son couldn't come. I think he was with grandma. And Claire was like, "Where's Christian?" She had brought the Christian award for him to show him. It's just stuff like that you can't beat. So again, it's just fun. It's not paid, but people should really want to come. And if they don't, we're doing something wrong. All right, we talked about the quarterly reviews. Let's dive into that a little bit. Ideally, until you get up over like 20, 30 cleaners, this is going to be you personally. And the why is fairly obvious, right? Good employees love and need feedback, right? And you should be giving that feedback to them. So it's an opportunity. Most of this is really positive, right? Because if they're not great employees, ideally you've parted ways with them. So all that's left is the good employees. So there's a lot of opportunity to encourage, give specific feedback on why they're doing good, give the pay increase. And I got to tell you, having done this, just had lots of employees over the last decades, pay is important. People need to feel like they're at least getting paid fairly. And maybe there's a small percentage out there that just want the most money. I found that's a very small percentage. More people want to enjoy the thing that they do, and just truly looking at someone in the eyeballs and giving them very specific positive feedback on the impact they've made to you personally, to your clients, to your team, and how much you appreciate them and why you appreciate them, not only feels amazing to you, but boy, oh boy, can it just change their life. So that's why we do it. The where can just be the office. This would probably be the most formal, right? Like you don't typically want to do it at a restaurant or a coffee shop or anything like that. So if you have an office, great. If not, you can kind of rent to like by the hour an office or something like that. And don't go crazy on these, right? 20 or 30 minutes per person each, or it's just going to take forever. So the way we do it, just like we talked about, we review if their core values match, right? We review any positive or negative reviews they've got, how many unexcused and excused absences they have, the time it's been taking them to clean compared to how long it's supposed to take. And 3 of those 4 are data, right? There's no how many excused and unexcused absences. That's a number. There's no negotiation. There's the standard and there's what they did. Same with positive and negative reviews. You have exactly this many positive feedback from clients. So, it's all data. The only one is the core values match, and we kind of talked about that. So again, on the core values match, let them say what they think first. Most of the time they'll be harsher than you are, no problem. All right, that was a lot. Let's sum up this whole piece. You need more cleaners than you think. You want a core values based automated hiring funnel that runs by itself, is always working, and most importantly, you love having it work so it's not painful. You want to run payroll exactly 2 times a month, not every other week, not weekly. You want to pay based on the average, 10% above the average in your area, with the opportunity to earn a 15% performance bonus. You want to maintain company culture. And again, that weekly meeting, monthly party, quarterly reviews, it's literally just a couple hours a week. It's not that much, such leverage time. All right, the next thing that you need to do to absolutely love your company is learn how not to take money from just anyone that waves it at you. What that means is you pick customers who are based on your goals or line up with your goals, not just whoever says yes. And I know for owners of cleaning companies, that can be sometimes scary and definitely a foreign concept. So let's just dive in. The way we're going to do that is go pros and cons to each customer. And I really want to spend some time here because so many clients think they do it the wrong way. They take a bunch of clients that really aren't aligned with their goals and aren't going to serve them. And then when they do have clients that are actually are going to be great for their goals, they think the grass is always greener. A lot of what that looks like is residential clients thinking, if I just start getting commercial clients, then I'm going to be rich, and that's almost never the problem, right? So I'm just going to go over each type of customer, the big types of customers within cleaning companies, and give you I've kind of got some standards. I'm going to give you the same kind of if they're good or bad in the same criterion, so you can compare them one for another. All right, my wife has handed me a piece of paper. I'm going to give you all of the criteria, and I'm going to go, and we're going to use the same criterion for each of the potential clients. So ease to get the clients, lifetime value, profitability, risk, love-hate factor, long-term potential, and then summary. So we're going to go very specific, those exact same criterion. The big types of clients are going to be post-construction, one-time move-in, move-out cleans, Airbnbs, recurring residential, recurring commercial. Let's jump right in. We'll start with post-construction. One of the things about post-construction is they're fairly easy to get, and there's a reason for that. Honest to goodness, there's not a lot of people that stay in post-construction a long time because it's brutal. We're going to talk about that going forward. So they're fairly easy to get because people that are doing construction, there's high churn on their vendors, which should be a good indicator, right? You got you're dating a girl who's been divorced 17 times. It might super easy to get her to say yes to a date, but the fact that she's still single after 17 marriages may not be a great indicator. So they are easy to get, which is a good thing, but you kind of want to consider why they're so easy to get. The second thing, and this is a really big deal that people overlook, is lifetime value. Really, really important, because the time to get a customer or the money to get a customer is fixed, and the more they spend for longer, you kind of get to leverage that. So if it costs $1,000 to get a client that spends $3,000 in their life, it's hard to get rich, right? But if you spend $1,000 for a client that spends $1 million in their life, that's a big deal, right? So the benefits of, really the only benefits of post-construction, they're fairly easy to get, and they can have a high lifetime value. But that lifetime value isn't as good as some of the other high lifetime values, and we're going to talk about why in a second. So profitability, this is the one that you're probably I might get some in the comments, so this is where you can kind of jump in and say, I feel differently, which is fine. I'm going to put profitability as very low because, again, you have to, I'm not going to get into that too much, but we talked about the criterion we're using. Profitability first. Risk is high, extremely high. This is the riskiest you can do. So when I say low profitability, the people are going to argue, rightfully so, is on paper, it can be very profitable. But what you can't track is the risk and how much time and how often things go wrong. And what I'm saying is many post-construction clients that we work with, they'll show me a job that goes great, but every time, if that's what they do predominantly is post-construction, they're not making any money bottom line. Example I would give is if I'd speak on stage and get a gig for 10 grand for a keynote for an hour and a half, my ego goes, I made $10,000 an hour and a half. But what I don't talk about is, well, did you market to them? Did you talk to them beforehand? Did you meet any of the people? Did you do any pre-work? Did you customize slides? Did you get on a plane? Did you stay the night? Did you stay after? And all of a sudden you're like, I got 60 hours into the speech and it doesn't look so great, right? The alternative would be, some of you guys that do floor work are like, I made $1,000 doing a carpet on a Saturday. And that sounds really good, but I'll be like, cool, how many hours did you work for the month? And it's like 200 or a ton of hours. And then how much money did you make? Like $6,000. So you can kind of fool yourself into just looking at one little sliver and go, that hour I made a lot of money, but you kind of discount all the things that go into that. It's exactly what tends to happen with post-construction. When they look job by job, they can kind of look at it in such a way where it feels really profitable. But when you get to the bottom line of time they have in, they never seem to make any profit. So that's what I mean by low profitability. And that really ties into the high risk, right? They take longer. It's post-construction, right? Things happen where you clean up an area and a contractor comes in and messes it up and you're fighting with the GC. It wasn't my fault and blah, blah, blah. So there's just a massive amount of risk, right? They're the hardest to bid. When you're cleaning the same building with the same tenants at the same time, every time, regular commercial cleaning where they're 5 nights a week, the same employees are there are not a lot of surprises. And if there are, it's very easy to charge extra for it. Post-construction, there's always surprises and you never know. And it's very hard to charge extra for. So the risk is very high, both on it taking longer and costing more than you think. And also, you have to pay your payroll now, right? You all know
You can't be like, oh, I'm net 30 or net 60 on this thing, team. So I'll, thanks for doing the work. Get back with me in a month or two. If and when the money shows up, we'll talk about your pay. It's not how it works. Payroll goes out, if you're doing what we coach, twice a month, every month, right? And if it takes a month or 2 months to get it, it really kinks your cash flow ability. And that can really just have downstream effects. And there's risk. Like, I know people are like, my people always pay. Everybody that's ever gone bankrupt or screwed a vendor always paid until they didn't, right? Very people stay in business paying and don't paying and paying and don't paying. They pay, and then they stop paying, right? And if you look at 100 years, the Dow Jones, whatever, all the companies that were in business 100 years ago, I'll bet you very few, if any, are in business now. Every one of them went bankrupt. So it's not really a matter of if they're going to go bankrupt, it's really when. And if we work with them for 5 years and the average business, I don't know, I should have looked it up. If the average business lasts 5 or 10 or 2 or whatever, the likelihood that you don't get paid is high. So there is a non-zero risk of not getting paid, which is really risky because you have to pay payroll whether you get paid or not. So that's where the risk is. You can misbid it, and you can, best case, you typically have to wait for your money. Worst case, you don't get it at all, even though you pay for it. Now, here's the big thing. The whole purpose of this business is to help you, or this video is to help you love your business again. So the love-hate factor is somewhere between miserable and wishing I was dead, right? It's a 24-hour a day business. Like, when you've got a big job, you can go from I have no work and to I've got 300 hours of work to be done in the next 24 hours, and I got to hire. It's really hard to find good employees that'll tolerate that. All the stuff that we talk about with culture, again, just like the not great employees need to get paid daily or weekly and in cash ideally, that's kind of a tell. The people that are like, yeah, I can work 60 hours in the next 3 days and then nothing for a month, and then those are called hobos, right? Like, sorry, hobo friends. And it's fine. That's just not who you want in your business. So the job offer that you have is going to attract people that will tolerate that kind of stuff, and there's a reason they'll tolerate that, right? It also requires you to be in the field a ton. This is the hardest to get away from, right? What we coach our clients to is typically 7 figures, 30% profit, working 0 to 20 hours a week from anywhere in the world. We can't, if someone came to me and said, I want to be a client, but I only want to do post-construction, I want you to get me that result, we would not take them as a client because we don't know how to do that, right? It's really hard for you to extricate yourself from the business, because the person that you have to pay to take on that kind of headache is typically be so expensive you just can't afford them. And then long-term potential, because of all these things, is low. And the big thing is most people don't just do post-construction, which is a bad sign, right? When you're like, everyone's like, well, obviously I have other customers. Why is that, right? And if it's a good client, you could just have those clients. The fact that almost nobody only takes those is kind of indicative there's a problem. So let me sum all this stuff up. The risk, it's so risky, I would say, might as well just go to Vegas. It's a lot more fun when you lose your money, and a lot less stressful depending on you do it. And me personally, if I were starting a cleaning company today, I would take 0 post-construction cleanup. So that's my summary there. Let's talk about move out cleans. Again, the ease to get here is high because there's so many. Like, if you just think of how many people move in or move out, and I don't know, every time we've sold a house, it's been like, you got to have it professionally cleaned, or we just would do it. So like, I don't know, 80%. It's just, there's 1,000 of them, right? So good news is, and unlike post-construction, it's easy to get because it's such bad work, nobody wants it, or the more sophisticated people typically don't want it. Move-outs are easy to get just because there's so many of them. So it's easier to get with not as much of a stigma. Like, the fact that there's a lot of them isn't a bad problem. Now, the lifetime value is where the real problem is with these guys. It's so low, right? Say you get $300, $400, $500, $600 for a one-time clean. You got to market to them. They got to call you. You got to give them a bid. You got to go. You got to do so much work, and then you got to do the payroll, and then hopefully you get paid. There's just not a lot. So the lifetime value is probably the biggest red flag here. So the best part about them is pretty easy to get. The worst part about them is you do just about the same amount of work for a recurring client that might be worth, like residential, $400 a month, stays 2 years. It's like 10 grand. You do kind of the similar amount of work to get them and get set up and everything, but for like $500, that half of what you get to the cleaner, so $200-300. It's not great. So the risk side is medium, not anywhere close to the post-construction, because it's a house. Typically, you're not going to walk into. You kind of know what you're getting into, but it's a new house, right? You don't know, it's new people. You don't know what's going on. You get a lot more bad reviews here than you would otherwise, right? Typically, if you've been with someone in their house or their business for weeks or months, you've just been with them, you really kind of screw up for them to give you a bad review. But the post-construction, they can just think they had a bad experience. There's not a lot of relationships, so the risk of getting a bad review is higher. And that's just because of unclear expectations, right? If it's a move in or move out, it's just hard to really get clear on what they think is clean, you think is clean, and what a fair price is. So the risk's medium. Love factor is low, right? Again, it's lots of work for little money, constant new customers. You can't really build a relationship, high standards, not the end of the world, but the love factor, it is hard to have a business you love if you're doing a ton of move in, move out or one-time cleans. And the long-term potential is very low, right? If you look at your cost to acquire a customer versus your, or just the headache to get the job, to do the work, it's not great. So again, most people don't just do one-time cleans. They look at them as kind of a cherry on top or extra revenue. And that's always a red flag, right? Of like, oh, I could never build a whole business on this, but I could build a part business. Like, well, is that really the people we want to build any business with? So summary, these guys are okay. Like, for post-construction cleanup, we really tell our clients, please just don't take them. It's going to kill you. One time, we don't love it. They're far from ideal. But if you're going to do it, it's not the end of the world. Just charge a lot. Make sure that there's your headaches in there. I'd rather get half the jobs because you charge a little more, but you've got some more money for things to go wrong. So if things do go wrong, you're going to get a bad review, you can just throw a bunch of extra time at it. Set boundaries, right? A lot of people are like, oh my God, I have to, they want it tomorrow. A lot of these are last minute, and then owners either stress out because they're burning up their team, they go do it themselves. So set boundaries, just go, we can't be there for 48 hours. And you're gonna get a lot of one-time cleans. So go, I'm gonna go somewhere else. You go, okie dokie, right? This is part of the art of not taking money from anyone that waves it at you. So the word no is really powerful. You're taking one-time cleans. Like if you're gonna take them, only take the ones that are really gonna suit you and your goals. And then finally, any profit that's made from these, and again, I don't think it's going to be a ton, I would personally use it to put into marketing to get more recurring clients. So let's talk about the next one, which is Airbnb. Now, ease to get, it's medium, right? They're harder to get definitely than one-time cleans or post-construction, but they're not crazy hard to get. So I'm going to go medium here. Lifetime value is pretty high, right? Because say an average cleans $150, they might do 5 or 10 a month. They could stay for years. So that's actually quite nice. The lifetime value is not so bad. Profitability is medium, right? They're a little more headache and stuff like it. It's so funny how the risk and the profitability tie together. High risk tends to be low profitability. Low risk tends to be high profitability. So profitability is medium. Let's get into the risk piece of it. Medium, right? It's the same building every time, which is really nice. But you don't know how the people are going to treat it, right? Because when you do a regular recurring residential, the same family is not going to leave it like a bomb hit it one week and then really nice the next. But when you've got Airbnb, you don't know, right? Some tenants are just a gosh darn mess, and typically you're charging a flat fee and you kind of get stuck there. And sometimes they leave it perfectly clean, you feel guilty charging the guy. So that's why the risk is medium. Now the love factor or love-hate factor is kind of low on the love, right? There's a lot of last minute stuff. There's a lot of weekends. One of the benefits to doing recurring residentials, that's pretty much Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. There's not a lot of drama. Airbnb is the opposite, right? It's people's holiday. It's almost every weekend, right? There can be a lot of drama. Oh, I came in and we got here at midnight and something was a mess. And it's just, there's more drama than you need. Laundry is kind of a pain in the neck. With most recurring residential or certainly commercial, you're not doing laundry. And if you do, you can charge enough for it. It's almost expected, or kind of, it's a problem that's going to have to be dealt with Airbnb because they need the laundry done. And the long-term potential, I would say, is low. Right? So the big reason for that is almost all of it's seasonal, which is a real bear. The biggest problem people get with an Airbnb is the seasonality, right? It's just, it's feast or famine. So because of that, if I was going to take Airbnb, and I don't know that I would, but like for our clients, we kind of give them this pros and cons, but we don't really push them out of it. The big thing is I just want to limit my exposure, right? So I'm not going to have more than like 20% of my revenue ideally with this, especially if it's seasonal. There's nothing worse than building a business, whether it's post-construction, one time, or Airbnb, when you're doing 20 grand some months of the year and 70 the other months. It is just brutal for hiring, for payroll, for cash flow, for your own life where you're working 100 hours and no hours. So summary on that is they're okay to take, not my favorite. If I was going to take them, or I've seen owners be successful with them, it's when they're really limiting their exposure. The people that get burnt is when they only do they only do Airbnbs and it's super seasonal and something like COVID hits and it's a mess, right? All right, so now let's get to the two that I would recommend, which is recurring residential and recurring commercial. And this is the same amount of money for the same cleaning at the same time, all the time. These, especially when it comes to, spoiler alert on the love-hate factor, these are what you want if you want a business that you love that doesn't require you to be there 24/7. So the ease to get on residential is pretty high, right? Recurring residential is not that hard to get. People want it. When you've got the right client, you're selling the most valuable thing that they have, which is time, right? So for those of you guys who are out there, we can talk sales in other videos. If you want more of that, comment below, let me know. But we think we're selling clean. We clean better. We clean more than the next guy. We're really selling their time back. And the clients that you want, have much more money than they have time, and they know it. So when you sell them a limited resource of time for something that they have more unlimited of money, it's the easiest trade ever. So they're fairly easy to get when you know how to do it. Lifetime value can be super high. Again, average, we're recording this July 2025, average in the United States for every other week clean is about $400, right? If they stay 2 or 3 years, that's 10, 15 grand, right? Profitability very high, again, because the risk is low. It's the same clean for the same thing with the same people. Once you sign it up, there's just not a lot of, and again, your cleaners could screw something up or break something, but that's not a risk based on the client. That's just a risk of being in this business in general. So for the cleaning company, that's about as low risk as you're gonna get. Love factor, high, right? It's the same people. Monday through Friday, no weekends, no nights. People are pretty good. There's not a lot of drama, like, oh my gosh, something happened last minute. And for some of you out there, they're going, hold on, Mike, I've done residential cleaning and they're terrible. They follow me around and they're the most picky and blah, 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 blah. If we can have a little real talk here, that's not the clients you've picked. It's how you set them up. Right? A lot of times we do the most clean and I'm perfect. And we don't cut corners, we clean them and we're the best. And we're going to stay here for this long or have this meeting. We overpromise and that attracts the wrong person. And then they act the way that you would expect them to act based on what you promised. And you're like, I don't like this at all. So if you set up the sales process right and you tell them, if you stay with us long enough, we're gonna make mistakes. If you choose to, after we leave, walk the house and find something we missed, you'll be able to find 5 or 10 things every time. And we're just gonna make you miserable and we're probably not a fit. But if you just wanna come home and be like, oh, the cleaners came, it smells good, it feels good. Nothing's ever gonna be perfect, and if it was, I couldn't afford it, but this is my favorite day of the week when the cleaners came. Oh, they left a little note or a little cookie, or this is my best. If that's what you're looking for, and we make mistakes sometime and we always make it right, we're gonna get along great. So depending how you set it up, most of the time when people think residential customers are the worst, it's because they're accepting the wrong ones or they're way over promising and then getting mad at the client for expecting what they promised. So again, love factor is gonna be very high, which makes long-term potential high. Summary, I love this. This is one of my favorite. Again, recurring residential and recurring commercial, the best way to build $1 million cleaning company, making 30% profit without you having to be there. All right, let's get to commercial. They kind of up until now have been going worst to best. Not saying commercial is better than residential, just different. So the recurring, same work, same money, same schedule every week, very similar. If you're in commercial, I wouldn't switch to residential. If you're in residential, I wouldn't switch to commercial. The one thing we don't recommend is doing both, right? If you're doing commercial and residential, just historically we found you'll do much better if you pick one. All right, so let's talk commercial. Ease to get is very low. They're difficult, right? These are the hardest to get. And actually let me tweak that a little bit. They're really not that hard to get. It's just the buying cycle is much longer, much longer. So if you just want to put out a Facebook ad or a local service ad or send a piece of lumpy mail or do a cold call or ask for a referral, like all of those would be very effective for residential. If that's all you want to do, it's going to be very hard to get commercial. However, if you're like, I just like building relationships and spending time with people and giving value, not really even selling or asking for anything, but I'm willing to do it for a long time, and a long time could be 1 to 6 months or 1 to 12 months before I get a result, then from that regard, very easy to get, right? So if you want instant gratification and do a marketing thing and get a response, residential is your way. If you're like, I don't care if I get it now, I just don't want to sell and I just want to build a relationship and find, 100 perfect prospects that I give a lot of value to over an extended period of time, then these are actually pretty easy to get. So easy to get, low if you're patient, pretty hard if you're impatient. So kind of make that little distinction there. Low lifetime value, this is the best. You're not going to get any better than commercial. If you're really selective about who you take, one of your Dream 100 clients might be worth 3, 4. We've had $20,000 a month clean. We've had more than that, but within the realm of kind of not crazy. Anywhere from 3 to 10, 20 grand is not insane. And we've had people that have kept clients for 30 years, literally one client worth $1 million. So lifetime value, there's very, very few places you're going to be able to get a client for as cheap as you can get commercial clients. for as high of a lifetime value. So you're just not going to get any better here. And that makes the profitability wild. My favorite thing about this is it's not very sexy, but boy, oh boy, can it make money. And the risk is as low as, actually a little kind of different than residential, because some people take terms and get paid later. That's going to raise your risk a little. We wouldn't coach you to do that. But again, the likelihood you're going to get bad reviews or whichever. So risk is pretty low. Only time the risk gets high is if you start taking net 30 or 60 terms. We wouldn't coach you to do that. Or if you have one client that's like 30, 50, 80% of your business, that can be super risky. But those are more kind of decisions that you make. As a category, commercial cleaning is very low risk. So the love factor is high. Only problem here is it's nights and weekends, right? With residential, it's kind of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. With the commercial, it's nights and weekends. So if you don't have systems and processes and you're going to get called in, it can be frustrating. If you've got systems and processes and things are running well, the love factor can still be high. So the only asterisk making this not like perfect love factor is because they complain less, and it's pretty easy. Just know that people will be out in the middle of the night, and that can be a pain in the neck. So long-term potential, probably the highest here, right? I will say when comparing residential to commercial, if you want to build a $5 or $10 million cleaning company, it's going to be a lot easier to do it with a commercial cleaning company than it would be with residential. Summary, this is great. Absolutely love it. All right, now that we've talked about the differences between each cleaning type of customer, we want to talk about price, which is a big deal, right? Those who pay attention, and those who don't, right? So the people that are the cheapest tend to be the worst clients, and the people who are willing to pay a fair price or even a premium price for premium service tend to be the best clients. So we're not looking to take advantage and overcharge people for crappy service. We're looking for people that, for me, if I go to a hotel and it's $300 a night and they're like, I can get you 20% off, or for the same $300, I can get you a nicer room, I'm always gonna be the guy that says, I want the nicer room, right? That's the client you wanna sell to. They want a premium thing, and the money is in, or even I'll get you a nicer room and it's more money, but not, instead of $600, it'd be $500, or even the $600 I might want, but you want people that want a better service, not less money. Like we talked about before, a lot of this is how you market and how you sell. If you sell, we're the cheapest, we do the most clean with the least amount of money, you're gonna get people who that's the standard they have. They want the most clean for the least money, and those are the worst clients. So, and for those of you like, well, that's what everybody wants. That's so close to being the truth, but it's not the truth. The truth, the more nuanced truth is, people that haven't been educated, that's what they default to, right? So if I go to buy a car or anything, I'm like, a flat screen TV. I want the most TV for the least money. But if I got a decent salesperson that's like, well, how do you want to, when are you going to use this? Where are you going to use it? Why are you buying a new one? What was no good about the other one? I might get into, well, I want to have friends over. Or sometimes I watch it with the sun coming in, I can't see it. And he's like, oh, well, there's a blackout feature, and it's this, and it's more expensive. And once I start understanding what I need, all of a sudden the price is less important, right? So if the TV guy is at Walmart, it's just like, this TV is the biggest you can get and it's the cheapest you can get. He's not only doing himself a disservice, but he's doing me a disservice, right? So when people start saying things like, I just want the cheapest price, cool. So doesn't matter if we show up every time, does it? Well, no, you have to show up every time. Oh, because there's people that are cheaper, but they don't always show up. Do you need insurance? Like if we break something, oh, you want that? Okay. Do we have to actually do a good job? Like have them try, oh, you do, what about the doors locked? Oh, should they be trained? Should we have hiring standards, vetted supplies? There's a lot of questions you can ask, and they start answering those questions and they realize, I don't want the cheapest price. I don't want to get screwed. No one wants to feel like they're getting taken advantage of, but they want to get paid, they want to pay a fair price, but they want what they want. So spend more time understanding what they really want. Like for me, I could have to ask my wife, she might feel differently. But for me, when I look at a cleaner, I'm like, are they insured? If I'm not home and my kid or my wife is home, is there gonna be someone I'm uncomfortable with? Are they gonna let my dog out? Are they gonna break anything? We actually have a VRBO where my wife literally said, we've had this Airbnb, he cleans our stuff, and I don't know how, years, 2, 3, 4 years, I don't know. They've made some pretty big mistakes. One of the persons left water on and flooded the whole thing. You know what? The guy's insurance took care of it. He jumped on, he was on it. I'm good with that. Those are the kind of clients that you want. Now, had he, try to chintz me or make it not his fault or not own the responsibility, there would have been a problem. But he's made several big mistakes. He just did a great job. So we want clients who are kind of have reasonable expectations. I can't expect the guy to be perfect. That's unreasonable. I just want him to do a great job when they make a mistake. That's kind of what we want to sell. So the good news is good customers will bulk at too low of a price more quickly than they'll bulk at too high, right? So again, I'm obviously in the business, but we'll just go to, say I was going to buy a new Tesla and I know they're 60 grand. And some guy's like, this one's only got 10 miles on it, I'll sell it to you for 15. I'm not excited about the good deal. I'm like, this is a problem, right? Whereas if I go to the Tesla store, it's like, this one goes way faster and is super sexy and has all the whiz bang, but it's 60 grand. I'm like, tell me more, right? So the good customers are gonna be freaked out at a low price quicker than the high price. Okay, so last couple things we wanna say here is don't sell out of your wallet, right? A lot of people that we coach, and no judgment, it's fine, is, they might be making 50 or 100 grand a year, and they're selling to people that as a household might be making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. But we sell out of our wallet, right? So for us, we're like, oh my gosh, $500 or $800 or $1,000 a month for cleaning. That's crazy, nobody would pay that. But what you're really saying is I wouldn't pay that. But if this guy has more money than you've got and less time available than you have, don't judge how you would spend money on how he would spend money or how she would spend money, right? So just be careful not to sell out of your wallet. We're really trying to take care of the person, not make ourselves feel comfortable. Now, the reason I'm spending so much time on price is it is such a big lever, right? We talked about how building a culture is your time. As an owner is the biggest leverage you can do with your time. One of the biggest leverage you can do with your time and money is price. So here's the deal. For a lot of companies, if you just increase, and please hear me, because everyone thinks, okay, increase my prices across the board by 20%. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just using an example. For a lot of clients, if they just increased all of their clients' prices by 20%, you would think, well, my profit would go up by 20%. Believe it or not, more often than not, it would double your profit, right? Because here's the deal. If I'm charging $1,000 for a client and it costs me $500 for the labor, right, to actually get it done, and it'd be another $200 or $300 for my overhead, right? I've got insurance, I've got training, I've got payroll, I've got whatever, software, all that other good marketing. There's $200, $300 left. So if I raise the $1,000 price by 20%, that's $200. If my profit's $200, I just doubled it, right? And you might go, well, my clients will leave. They won't all leave. And here's the deal. Say half of them leave. Well, now you're making the same amount of profit doing half the work with the best top half of your clients. It's fantastic. So here's the deal. Most people come to me, it's so frustrating. When I ask them their goals, it's always revenue, right? It's always, I want to have $1 million company. And they sometimes aren't even making any money there, and they just assume what they say is I want $1 million company, but what they typically mean is I want to be rich. And they think if they had $1 million company, they would be rich. But the reality is $1 million companies go bankrupt, $1 billion companies go bankrupt every day. It's not a big deal. So most of the time, every time I've asked someone, they said, I want $1 million company, I go, cool, what's more important to you personally? Is it profit or is it revenue? 100%, well, 95% of the time, profit. So to them, they want profit, but their goals are based in revenue, right? So we want to make sure if you really want profit, let's start there. On that theme, people will come to me, they always want to double their business, whatever their business is. They think if they just double it, that's going to be the magic. But the reality is doubling the business is just doubling the headache, right? All the customers and payroll and rent, all that stuff is headache. The reason you would want to double it is typically they just want more profit, but for some reason they think it's weird or they shouldn't say it, or I don't know, we think it's bad, but I don't know why people do it. They just think it's gauche to say they want more profit. But if that's where you're at, if the goal is to double your profit, there's only two ways to do it. You can double your business, which takes a long time and a lot of risk, and you may not get there. But if you leverage your pricing properly, you can often double it in pricing. And we're going to talk about like key numbers, but if you leverage your pricing and your overhead, sometimes you can double. Often, many of our clients can double their profits in a month or two, right? So just make sure you're really clear on what your goal is, and pricing has a big leverage in that. The problem is, raising prices is scary for people, so typically they don't do it, but they don't understand what a big lever it can be. They think, if I just raise prices, it'll have a small impact, whereas it has a global impact on the business. And we're talking about loving your business. Typically, would you rather run a Nordstrom's or a Walmart? And I like Walmart. We've shopped there. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying as an owner, I'd rather run the Nordstrom's. I just think it's kind of more my vibe. So same thing with pricing. Not only does it have a big lever in terms of your profit, if you want to love your business, fewer customers who pay more and value you more, and the things that you spent a lot of money on, you tend to value. The things that were cheap or free, you tend not to value, right? So just such a huge lever. So let me sum all this stuff up. On the pricing side, it takes the same amount of work to get good customers as bad. Believe it or not, it can actually take less work to get good customers. And not only are the good customers worth a little more, they're worth way more than bad customers. And believe it or not, bad customers can actually reverse the growth of your company because you're so focused on pleasing people that are unable to be pleased with not enough money to do it. You can't focus on getting good customers. So focus on high lifetime value, high margin, low risk, low pain in the butt customers, not only is it good for your pocketbook, but as we're talking about loving your business, that's probably the number one things that we talked about, the best employees, right? If you are dealing with people that you don't love on the employee side, very hard to love your business. Once that's done, customers are the next thing. If you love your customers and you love your employees, there's only one thing left that can stop you from loving your business, and that's the numbers, tracking the right stuff. So I'd save that for last. Let's jump in. Beautiful thing is people either do one of two things that own cleaning companies. They track too much, where they track 1,000 different data points, but they get overwhelmed. They don't know what they mean, and they don't really have any action items associated with any of them. Or they track too little, and they just let it all, they just shut their eyes and put their eyes in the sand and hope for the best. So on the financial side, and I'll give you the first two. On the hiring side, all you got to track is applicants, interview start, stops. Not too bad. And on the revenue side, you just want to track leads, bids, sales, lost customers. So really pretty easy. And on the kind of financial number side, you want to track revenue, cost of goods sold, overhead, and profit. Believe it or not, you really just need to track profit. But if your profit isn't where you want to be, then you got to look at your revenue, your cost of goods sold, and your overhead, because those are the three levers for the profit. So if we're really just tracking the right stuff, it's just profit. But if the profit's where it needs to be, you kind of don't need the rest of that. If it's not where it needs to be, then we need to go look at our revenue, our cost of goods sold, and our overhead. So again, everyone talks about revenue goals, but what they really want is profit. So let's start with, we won't start with revenue because everybody gets that. Let's talk about the cost of goods sold. That's a big lever, and the price has everything to do with this. So cost of goods sold is also known as variable cost or direct costs. It's basically everything it actually directly costs you to do a job. So if you had no jobs, your cost of goods sold would be zero. Like rent is not cost of goods sold. Like say you pay rent on your building, it's $1,000 a month, whether you do 100 customers that month or 0 customers. But your payroll, your cleaner payroll, like there you go, 2 kinds of payroll. If you have a answering person, someone that answers your phone, or a VA or something, you pay $2,000 a month. Doesn't matter how many clients you have, it's $2,000 a month. Your cleaner pay would be, because it's a cost of goods sold or a variable cost or direct cost, it goes to 0. If you had no cleaning, your cost of goods sold would be 0. So it's much more important as a percentage than the full number. And it's basically everything that goes up and down. That's why they call it variable, right? Up and down with your revenue. So cleaner hours, workers' comp typically goes up and down, payroll taxes for the cleaners, supplies, right? If you didn't have any work, you wouldn't have any supplies. And again, it's only important as a percentage of revenue. And we coach our people to 45%. As long as you're 50% or under, that can be okay. Now let's talk about overhead. That's also known as fixed cost or expenses or indirect cost. It's basically everything that's not cost of goods sold. Software, liability insurance, uniforms, meals and entertainment, all that nonsense. And we're looking for 25%. Now here's the trick with that. With cost of goods sold, it can be as low as you want, and that's great. The only reason you wouldn't have it lower, low cost of goods sold equals high price. The higher the price, most of the time people can charge a lot higher than they think and still do fine with customers, but there's obviously a point where it's too expensive, right? So your cost of goods sold can't be too low as long as it's not inhibiting your ability to get customers. Your expenses can be too low, right? So if you have no expenses, that just means you don't have any insurance, you don't have any software, you're not doing any marketing, and you can spend too little, which will make you a little bit more money now, but it's really going to kill your long-term prospects of your business. And you can and by the way, when people are too low on this, it's almost always marketing in the cleaning business, not always just in the cleaning business. The flip side is you can certainly spend too much. People don't track this, and you can spend too much, and that really hurts profit. And believe it or not, most of the time you're overspending more than 25%. It's not that people say I'm reinvesting in my business, right? The reality is they're just not spending their money wisely, right? So the cool thing is with that 25%, it is enough to grow your business. You don't have to take from your profit to put in. Usually they're just throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall that they don't know if it's making any money, so they spend too much, right? When they go over the 25%, it's not because they're marketing well, it's because they're just trying a bunch of stuff and not really holding it accountable. So overhead is all the stuff that's not directly associated with getting the job done, like cleaner payroll. Cost of goods sold is everything is exactly associated. It goes up and down, right? If you don't have any work, it goes to 0. Profit, if you do the math, 100% revenue minus 45% cost of goods sold minus 25% expenses leaves 30% for you. And I want to be a little clearer on the profit. So there's a lot of ways that there's profit. There's EBITDA, earnings before taxes, depreciation, interest, amortization. There's what we call owner benefit, which is what I like to use. So profit, like, well, are we talking about EBITDA, which would be more of a company valuation? Are we talking about what the government says I owe pay my taxes based on? Are we talking about the W-2 salary I've taken? Are we talking about the draws? There's so many different words. What we use for our clients is I just call it owner benefit, right? And the thing with owner benefit is if I say I have no profit in my company, it doesn't make me a nickel, but I live in a mansion and I fly private all the time to wherever I want. And of course, everything when I get there is paid for. My butler cleans everything. My cook cooks everything, buys the food. All my clothes come in for free and my business pays for everything. I'm okay with no profit, right? If I live it, so my owner benefit in that case would be very high. Even if I didn't make any profit, we're okay with that. So what that would look like for you guys is the distinction I make is if it's something, if I sold the company, I would keep. Right? So say there's a company car that I don't drive. If I sold the company, the new guy would get it. That is not owner benefit, even if I drive it now and again. If I have my own car that I sometimes use for work, but if I sold the company, like, no, my car doesn't go with it, it's my car, that would be owner benefit. Even if your accountant says, hey, the company can pay for that, that's still owner benefit, right? Say I buy a new iPhone for $1,000 that I was gonna buy either way, or a laptop, or I travel somewhere. Anything I would have done, whether if I sold the business, I still would have spent that, that's owner benefit, right? So as opposed to profit, we're looking for a 30% owner benefit, not so much a tax thing, but does it come to me? When you're smaller, kind of 0 to 50 grand a month, probably even 0 to 30 grand a month, 40 grand a month, 30% owner benefit's about it. It's really hard to, I know there's a lot out there going, well, if you have to work, you have to pay yourself a salary and blah, blah, blah. The cool thing is the way we coach you to run your business, you're only working 0 to 20 hours a week. So it's like, how would you even pay a salary for that? You couldn't hire anyone to do it. It's just really being the owner, right? There's always going to be, even if you own a piece of real estate, there's some amount of time. Even if you have a property manager, there's always some amount of time. So when we talk owner benefit, we're looking for, you not really having to do a ton on the business, not zero on the business, just on a ton, and all the money that benefits you directly that you would spend whether the business paid for it or not. So we want a 30% owner benefit, whether you count that as a salary or this or that, all owner benefit. Where that dips in and we wouldn't count it owner benefit is if you're working 40, 50 hours a week. If you're cleaning, that's not owner benefit, right? So we would actually encourage you, pay yourself like a cleaner so your cost of goods sold is accurate. You don't have yourself as a free cleaner. And then everything you make on top of what you got paid, if you pay your cleaners $15 an hour, you pay you $15 an hour. That's not profit. That's just you having a part-time job as a cleaner for your own company. So, we want to make sure we understand the difference between profit and paycheck, right? If you're working 0 to 15, 20 hours a week from anywhere in the world, all owner stuff, weekly meetings, monthly parties, quarterly reviews, looking at the financials, kind of doing owner type stuff. I guess you could, when you get bigger, 50, 100 grand a month, you can pay yourself a little $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 salary or something and still get 30%. But when you're smaller, we're just looking for the 30%. Now, when you're doing payroll or buying rags or going out and cleaner, dropping your cleaners off, that's not profit, right? That would be a paycheck. All right, this whole video has been about actually being in love with your business again. And hopefully you see if you've got a system that gets you more than enough good employees without a lot of work, and a system that brings in the right customers at the right price, and the money's all right, you can actually enjoy your business again. Here's the thing where people get stuck just in summing up. Most owners start with their business and kind of put themselves and what they want as an afterthought. So when the business says jump, they say how high. When they get a text in the middle of dinner, boom. We want to make sure that we put you and your life and your goals first and design your business to create the life that you want, not mold your life around what you think your business wants. So if your business isn't giving the life that you want, please implement some of these. Like I said, post in the comments if you've got a question, if you've got something to add, any way we can help. You can email me, mike@growmycleaningcompany.com. We've got a whole team of people. All we do every day, all day, is help people install these systems in their business, and we want to see you win any way you can. So feel free to reach out, say hey in the comments, follow us on Instagram, whatever you want to do. Love the fact that you gave time and attention. And again, any feedback that you give, please be nice. Let me know in the comments so we can, A, I can respond to you, and B, we can try and make better and better content that gives you more and more value. We'll see you soon.